In early 2021, video game developer Bungie announced plans to expand their Destiny IP into various other mediums besides video games. In November of 2021, League of Legends made a TV show that was apparently really good, but I didn't watch. Anyways, I'm not saying that Destiny should have a TV show, but I think out of this list of options, it's probably the most appealing one. For those who don't know what Destiny is a video game developed by Bungie and originally published by Activision in 2014, and then Destiny 2 came out 3 years later, and the game's still going. As of the time I'm recording this, the new expansion, The Witch Queen, is set to come out in about a month. Actually, exactly a month. It is the 22nd. Cool. Destiny tells the story of Guardians of the Light fighting against the darkness, and that is the most simple I can explain it. The Destiny lore goes way deeper and gets way more involved, but that is the most simple summary I can give you. If you actually want to find out about any of this cool stuff, all you have to do is boot up the game, go to your inventory, go to Triumphs, then find the tab that's called Lore. I don't think it's actually labeled Lore. It probably is, actually. But so you just have to go dig through the menus, and then, you might not have everything unlocked, so you can't really read everything, but, it's fine. Anyways, another thing I really liked was the first season of Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. It was a really cool animated show where they just let animators do whatever they wanted, really, and tell stories. I thought that was cool. I think a Destiny animated anthology series where they just explain the lore and all of the stuff that happens that doesn't get shown in game, I think that'd be really good. So, without further ado, here's what I would want out of a Destiny TV show. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just kind of cleaning off the title screen. Anyways, you probably noticed some differences around here, like the room, or the channel name, or me, even. So, yeah, I'm Sam. Right now I'm going by they, them pronouns. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Okay, so I'm not just flying into this by the seam of my pants and just making stuff up as I go. I give myself a couple guidelines like I did for my iCarly video. Speaking of which, if you want to check that out, link should be on the screen now. The first guideline is that any of the campaigns of the games will not be adapted. They're still trying to actually sell the game, so I don't think it's worth it. 2, the main goal of this original season is to just kind of introduce the key concepts and get people familiar with the Destiny universe. There's a lot of really cool stuff in the lore that I would love to touch on, like Dredge and Yor, but I'm not going to do that because there's none of the groundwork in place to do that. So maybe I'll make another video where it's other stuff. So maybe I'll make a what if there was a Destiny Season 2. 3, there are only 9 episodes. Arcane had 9 episodes. This is an arbitrary number, but I didn't want to make a bunch of them, and I think I have some pretty solid ideas. I think like my last video, Bungie people, if you're watching this and you decide to take my ideas, which you should, can I just get a cool emblem? I'll give you my Bungie stuff. I just want a cool emblem. Alright, for the first episode, we start in Medias Res, in the middle of the action. Yeah, I went to school. I'm in school now. I'm in a dorm right now. So, there's a team of Guardians on a strike, and they're killing stuff or something, probably. So they kill the final boss of a strike. It doesn't really matter which one. It doesn't even have to be a strike that's from the games. But it just looks cool. It's supposed to look cool. It's this big action set piece to get people going, huh, that's pretty cool. Because Destiny is pretty cool, despite what other people may tell you. So anyways, they finish up the strike, and they go back to the tower, where they go and debrief with 3 Vanguard. Yep, that's right. Cade's not dead, because I think it'd be weird if Cade was dead to start the show off. So we're introduced to key NPCs like Zavala, Ikora, Cade, maybe Banshee, maybe Rahul, probably the speaker, maybe not because he's dead now too. And then some other stuff, whoever else you really want. You have to introduce that the Traveler is a thing. You have to introduce that they're trying to fight the darkness, but don't actually get into the idea that maybe the darkness isn't that bad yet because we're not ready to have that discussion. And so pretty much you just do whatever. This is an original story, pretty much, just to get people familiar. I think something that would be cool, though, is if the episode ended with, the very start of Destiny, where it's your ghost resurrecting you in the Cosmodrome, but maybe just, show a ghost flying around the Cosmodrome and stopping on somebody, so then people go, that's me! So, the second episode, called Collapse. I called this one Collapse, but it's also going to have to deal with the golden age of humanity and the collapse. So, I think this one should start with, that opening cutscene in Destiny 1 where it's the astronauts walking on Mars, and then it's oh, that's a big-ass ball in the sky. Just open with that, but then just what happens after that. So then, after that, just show mankind colonizing the solar system, show like a few planets, probably the planets we see in the games. Venus, probably, Venus is cool, but like Titan, not Europa though, because we'll get back to that one. Anyways, the point is that everything is good. One could argue that everything is awesome. Everything is cool when part of a team even. I'm gonna stop this. This joke wasn't funny when I started it. So eventually, the Warmind Rasputin. The Warmind is this big-ass computer on Mars. It detects these ships coming in. I think this next bit works best if it's like Cloverfield, where it's like everything's getting destroyed, but we can't see what it is. If you really want to know what it is, they're triangles. They're black triangle ships. Everything is pretty much getting destroyed, and then the stuff gets to Earth, where the Traveler lets out a big beam of light and pushes all of the darkness back. It's kind of stupid, but you know, that's Destiny for you. The Traveler needs to be visibly weakened by this. This is the Traveler's last stand. After the Traveler's visibly weakened, I think just show little pieces of it kind of breaking off as ghosts. I don't think that's actually how the lore works, that they're part of the Traveler, but I'm not 100% on my Destiny lore because I go outside. So these ghosts kind of start flying around and they start resurrecting dead people. They're not guardians though. They're kind of assholes and they start just pushing people around because they're like, oh shit, I'm immortal now. And so they start calling themselves warlords. We'll see how we get to guardians in the next episode called Fallen.
On the horizon.
So we open on shots of the Elixni homeworld Reese. If you don't know, Elixni is the actual name of the Fallen. So we see that the Elixni are arguably more advanced than we saw the humans in the last episode before the collapse happens. And so eventually, after we kind of see what Reese is all about and how their civilization is, we pan up and see... Is that the Traveler? Oh my god, I think it is. Huh. So eventually, the same pyramid ships show up and the Traveler just goes... So Elixni civilization collapses similar to humanity, however the Traveler isn't there to stop them. So they have fallen from grace, so that's why they're called the Fallen. The surviving Elixni pile onto these ships, and they just kind of follow after the Traveler, eventually getting to Earth and the solar system. So they eventually find the Traveler because it's a big-ass ball on top of a city. They find the Traveler in the last city, and they start eating people. I don't know why, but they do. And so eventually the warlords go, there's people getting eaten, so we should guard them. We should be their guardians. Roll credits. So anyways, the House of Devils, I forgot to mention this. The Fallen organize themselves by houses. So the big ones are the House of Devils. House of Dusk isn't a thing until Destiny 2. House Salvation's not a thing until Destiny 2. House of Light isn't a thing until Destiny 2. It's really not important in the grand scheme of things. So the House of Devils organizes an attack on the still forming walls of the city, where they have 6 fronts, and 4 orders of Titans stop them, and that's the Battle of 6 Fronts. And that's a lore thing, apparently. I didn't know that was the thing, actually. And that's why the Titan symbol is a hexagon. I didn't know the Titans had a symbol. Everything seems good for a bit, and then BAM! Fallen Walkers, which are these big-ass spider tanks, start shooting at the walls of the city. And we see the Battle of Twilight Gap. So Twilight Gap is this battle where the Fallen pretty much made their biggest push that they've ever made against the city walls, and a lot of Guardians die. And so they use the armor of the dead Guardians to make Galahorns, which is like the best gun ever made in Destiny. After the battle, show the Galahorns being formed and given to the war heroes or whatever, and then just pretty much show the results of this. So the results of this are the Crucibles formed, which is the PvP in-game, but in lore it's training for Guardians, I think. The Vanguard is formed and starts preemptively attacking their targets. They're preemptively striking them. Strike playlist. Wow, who would have thought? So episode 4 I have called Bray Exoscience. The main goal for this one is to introduce the Vex enemy race and the Exo playable race. So these logbooks were introduced in the latest expansion as of the time we were recording this, Beyond Light, and they're really fucked up. I'm not going to try to explain it to you. I'm just going to do some voiceover real quick. So I'll put that in now.
How does it taste?
Metallic. Pork. Something else.
Does it feel digestible?
It feels rich. It's cool. I can feel it making its way through me.
This is encouraging. No immediate effects.
No.
What is it? Talk to us.
Feels like it's attacking my stomach.
Sir, his heart rate is spiking and his pressure is dropping. He's losing fluids at an alarming rate.
Exciting, isn't it? What's going to happen?
He's going to die. That's what's going to happen.
Fine. Send in the medic units.
Not sure if it's safe. We don't know if this is contagious or not. It could go airborne.
How else are we going to find out?
We'll send in the medic units.
Wow, wasn't that scary? Anyways, I think the best way to approach this would kind of be like analog horror, honestly. The problem with that is that this is Golden Age information, so it would not look like VHS tapes. Now, there's a couple workarounds. Maybe they're using VHS tapes because they don't want this stuff stored digitally. Maybe the post-collapse technology can't play Golden Age technology back in full quality. I'm doing the heavy lifting for you, Bungie, here. Just make it look like analog horror. I think if you do the logbooks like intermittently throughout the episode, I think that would be a really good way to do it and not just have people get burned out. But the important things you really need to show: the failures of creating Exos, Clovis Bray using darkness to open a Vex portal on Europa, the Vex corrupting some of the Exos there, Clovis Bray himself getting corrupted, and then Clovis uploading himself twice, once into a giant head that's just... I don't like it. I don't like him. And another one into who we later know as Banshee. So Clovis and his granddaughter, he has 2 granddaughters. I didn't mention that, but again, if you play the game, you know that. So Clovis and the daughter fight off all the stuff, and the giant head continues to be an ass. So after they kill all the Vex and shut down the portal and get everybody off of Europa, I think it would be interesting if when they show them shutting down the big Clovis head, it like doesn't completely turn off. I know that doesn't make sense lore-wise because we wake it back up during the Deepstone Crypt raid, but I think it would be interesting because there's this line he says during the raid where he's like,
"You now face godlike judgment. May it extend eternally."
So it's like, what if he gets his god complex from like being in this simulated world where it's like, it's just his consciousness floating in a void. Like he's turned off technically, but like maybe it's just like the speakers and his ability to interact with the world outside got turned off and he just has to retreat into his mind. I don't know. I think that'd be interesting and kind of karmic justice almost. So episode 5 I've called Exile, and there's 2 ways you could go about this. So this one focuses on the Cabal race. The Cabal are a military group from the planet Torabottle. It's kind of weird because they don't really have a super huge impact on the story directly. They're there, they're just not like huge players. So I think there's 2 directions you could go with this. So remember earlier when I said this, the first guideline is that any of the campaigns of the games will not be adapted. So the Red War campaign's not in the game anymore. So like it's kind of fair game. And you could show like Gaul taking the light from the Traveler, but I think that's kind of jumping too far forward. I think the better idea would be to focus on Emperor Callus. Callus is the former emperor of the Cabal Empire. He's directly involved with the story right now. I think it would be pretty interesting to focus on his exile and later his just complete obsession with the darkness. Honestly, you might be even able to show the Crown of Sorrow. The Crown of Sorrow is this thing that corrupts completely with darkness, so kind of big deal. I think showing Callus inviting Guardians onto the Leviathan is important because then it sets up Shadows and Presage, which I think doing a straight up adaptation of the Presage lore books would be, but that's like a later season thing. So like subscribe for Destiny Season 2 ideas, I guess. Anyways, I've been rambling enough. I really don't have a lot of good ideas. Episode 6 is called Sorrow. The Books of Sorrow are very long and quite honestly not that interesting. The Books of Sorrow are lore pages added in Destiny the Taken King, and they kind of just explain the origins of the Hive. So I think it's important that you show the Proto-Hive on Fundament and all of the planets and moons around Fundament. And wait, hold on. It's the Traveler again? Damn. Okay, so anyways, the Proto-Hive suck and they die really quickly. And the ruler of Fundament goes insane and gets himself killed. And his 3 daughters escape. So eventually, while these 3 daughters are just kind of traveling, they meet worms in the ocean, but they're not like these worms. They're more like these worms. So these are worm gods who directly get their power from the darkness. And so the sisters make bargains with worm gods, which pretty much make the hive. Every hive has a worm put inside of them, and they're functionally immortal as long as they continue to feed the worm. So that idea is called sword logic in Destiny, and so we get our 3 hive gods. We get Oryx, the Taken King, Savathun, the Witch Queen, coming out February 22nd, 2022, pre-order now, and Xivu Arath, title undisclosed. So after you do that, you can just kind of show Savathun, the Witch Queen, not liking that, which gets us to current day, actually. After thousands of years of this, I think, again, I'm not 100% on my Destiny lore, Oryx gets the power to take, so you could show the Taken if you want, but I think the Taken is a bit too much for this right now. I think showing Oryx getting the power to take would be a better episode for later seasons. Episode 7, we're almost there. We're almost done. Episode 7 is called Awakening. This one focuses on the Awoken race. So this is one where I need to give you a bit of background information. So right before the collapse, there was this colony program called Exodus. In lore, we know of 5 of these ships. Each one is Exodus color. We know that the Exodus Blue and Exodus White are currently on Earth in the Cosmodrome. The Exodus Black is currently on Nessus, and the fate of the Exodus Red is unknown as of right now. What we're interested in currently is the Exodus Green. So the Exodus Green leaves Earth shortly before the collapse, and so when the collapse happens, the Exodus Green is kind of taken captive by a pyramid ship and held hostage. So when the Traveler does its big explosion of light thingy, the people inside are caught between light and dark, and it makes a pocket universe almost. Inside of this pocket universe, the 900 people on the ship are turned into the first Awoken, and Big T... I can't say this. I can't say this. And Big Titty Goth GF Marasov declares herself Queen of the Awoken. There's like a whole bunch of shit that happens before that where there's like a fake Queen of the Awoken for a bit, and then Marasov's like, actually it's me, fuck you, and takes control. The thing is, in this pocket universe, like tens of thousands of years pass, so Awoken civilization is way more advanced than pretty much the rest of the solar system because of the collapse. So eventually the Awoken decide to leave, and they take over the Reef, which is the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Episode 8 is called Vanguard in my hypothetical plan for a Destiny TV show. So I want this episode to focus on the 3 Vanguard. That's Zavala, Ikora, and Cade, if you forgot. And I think the way to do this would be to have each segment focus on loss and how that affects them. For Ikora, I think focusing on her relationship with Osiris would be really interesting, and kind of how losing a mentor figure, or seeing how a mentor figure is flawed, kind of like changes how you think and view the world. And it's like, we don't see that in the game. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, Osiris and Ikora are really close, but then Osiris is like, I gotta check out the Vex on Mercury, and then he gets exiled, and that's really all we see. And then he comes back, and now he's dead, maybe, probably not, I don't know. So for Cade, I think showing his relationship with the former Hunter Vanguard Andal Brask would be interesting, and also just kind of show us how Cade gets the job, because that's a pretty interesting story. Another interesting thing would be, there's this piece of lore, well, there's several pieces of lore, and there's a picture in an art book where it's Cade looking in a mirror and he sees himself staring back. So maybe like the idea of the family he thinks he might have had at some point would be interesting. Just a thought. I think for Zavala, focusing on like his wife, he has a wife actually, they just bring it up once and then don't acknowledge it for like a while, would be interesting, because it's like, it's not like she dies a tragic death or anything, she just gets old. Guardians are immortal and she's just not, so it's just him watching her get old. It'd be sad. Have it be sad. Do it, Bungie. You won't. For my final episode, the title would be The Game. Speaking of which, you just lost the game. Get fucked. For this last episode, things are gonna get weird. This episode is just gonna be 2 dudes sitting in a completely white room with a glass table in between them playing a board game. One dude is dressed entirely in white, the other in black. See if you can figure this out before I explain it, because I'm gonna explain it in a little bit. Wow, it's the physical representations of light and dark. The game they're playing is called the Flower Game, and it's a concept introduced during the Shadowkeep expansion, where this is another one where it's pretty much just directly adapting a lore book. It's called Unveiling, and Unveiling is the darkness trying to kind of like sell itself to the Guardian. So the Flower Game is actually the universe. Wow. And so the darkness has won every single time that they've played. So the darkness always wins the Flower Game by getting into this pattern, which is called the Final Shape, which is the name of the last expansion. Huh? How crazy is that? The Final Shape is just a pattern of simplicity. And so the light is like, that's kind of stupid. I want to have complex things. So I'm going to make a new rule, or I'm going to put myself in as this big ball thing. And wow, the Traveler's in the game now. And so the darkness is like, okay, dude, fuck off. and comes in as the pyramid ships. So this episode should just kind of explain the philosophies of light and dark, and this is where we can have things get gray. Up until now, we've been under the assumption light good, dark bad. Now we can get into that shades of gray that the game's currently trying to get into, where it's like, maybe the darkness is just a tool, we don't have to be bad. Anyways, that was my Destiny Season 1 ideas pitch. This was actually kind of way harder than I thought, because I actually ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole sometimes with this stuff. Anyways, I don't know when the next video is going to be. I really don't. So let's just play the music and get out of here. Peace. Okay, actually, let's try some different music out for once. I'm not bored of this. I still like the song, but like, let's just get something a little different going. Cool. Anyways, I'm Sam. Thank you for watching the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Everything has changed since you